All right, here we are. Here we are. It's the grand finale. It's the grand finale. Here we are with Play to Win, chapter 10. Chapter 10 of Play to Win. This is where we talk about just do it. This is where we talk about just do it. Just remembered I forgot to put this on and it really enhances the sound. So I'll just do it live with you watching. That's what's wrong with live. But then I suppose we have to do what we have to do. I'd rather have you hear it nicely and I look a little disorganized like I forgot to do that. All right, there we are. There we are. Today we do chapter 10. I have been going through a series called Play to Win, a chapter a day. That's the book. It is available for free download if you go to softskills.co.ke and actually could share the link right there. I think that should be it. There you go. That's the link for you to download the free ebook Play to Win. Discover your unique ability, how to profit from your unfair advantage. Now, I have been doing this for the last 10 days. I have skipped a few days. I haven't done it accurately in 10 days. But if you look through my feed, you will see that I have covered chapter 1 up to chapter 9. I did chapter 9 yesterday. And now I want to go through chapter 10. Now, I do not want to assume that you've been with me throughout. A lot of people have been joining in, and a lot of people have been telling me they follow this after. But for the benefit of anyone who is just joining this, I would like to go through, just in 2 or 3 minutes, give you what every chapter contains. Is that a good idea? All right. Now, the central theme of this book, like I said from the beginning, is how to identify your talent. When we say play to win, we are talking about you getting into the area of your gifting, of what I call your unfair advantage, so that then you have a chance to win. When we say play to win, we're talking about the game of life. And I base this entire book on the parable of the talents. To one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, and to one he gave 1. Now, it's interesting that in this parable, and I don't want to go into the parable, it's a familiar story from the Bible, but the currency in this particular story is known as talents, which is what I like to call your unfair advantage. Because if you go now, I come from a country of athletics, okay? I come from a country of athletics, and if you were going to compete against one of our popular marathon long distance runners, you're really beaten before you try, before you even start. I remember at one point I entered the Nairobi Marathon. And I always say I finished the Nairobi Marathon, but you know what? I walked the Nairobi Marathon. As soon as the gun went off, these people took off at such a speed. I said, oh my goodness, give them their millions. Give them their millions already. I was still trying to get into rhythm. Now, they were playing in their area of unfair advantage. They run for a living. They run all the time. I've practiced maybe 6-7 weeks for this. They do this as a lifestyle. They are gifted in this thing. That's what I'm calling an unfair advantage. Now, in that competition, I was beaten before I tried. So that's what we are calling your unfair advantage. And actually, chapter 1 is entitled Life Isn't Fair. Now, that's to tell you that there's an area in which you have a competitive advantage. There is an area in which you're able to do better than the next person. There is something you find easy to do that other people find difficult to do. Like there's something you play at that other people have to work at. Now, it's your assignment to find this thing, to work this thing. Now, chapter 2 asks, why play? Why would you want to find your unfair advantage? Why would you want to identify your area of competitive advantage? And I gave 2 reasons. One, you don't have a choice. Life is competitive. Life is very competitive. As soon as you were born, you came into a competitive environment. You came into a competitive environment because everything that you do, whether you run a business or you are employed, there's at least 10,000 people in your city, and that's a very conservative estimate, who can do your job better than you for less than you're charging. So if you're employed in your company to be the analyst of that organization, to be the accountant, to be the receptionist, to whatever job it is that you have, whether you're the managing director, whatever job that you have, if you're employed, there is a lot of people who are more qualified than you who would be willing to do that job for less. Now, when you're running a business, then the competition is even more visible. There is so many other companies, larger than yours, smaller than yours, that can offer the product or service that you're selling. So life is competitive. You want to choose an area where you are more likely to win. The second reason I gave was this: it just makes your life so much easier, so much better. Actually, today I was going through quite a very busy day. I have been up since very early, and it's such a, but I was still looking forward to doing this. This is something I find pleasurable to do. I love it when someone says I have touched their life. I love it when I say something that builds your life. So I'm hoping that you are going to identify the one thing that gives you that kind of pleasure, that puts you in flow. There's something known as flow, where your spirit takes over and moves your body. You want to discover what that thing is for you. If it is playing a sport, if it's playing an instrument, if it is singing, if it is managing. There's people who crunch up numbers and they love it. There's people who manage people, and that's what they love to do. Find what it is that you love to do. Allow yourself to like what you like. All right, that was chapter 2. And so we moved on to chapter 3, which was which game. Chapter 3 is entitled Which Game? And it shows you how to identify your unfair advantage. It's all good to say, find your unfair advantage, find your gift, find your talent, operate in your area of talent. But what talent is this? There's a lot of people who do not know where their area of unfair advantage is. And we give 4 questions you could ask yourself that will lead you to identify your unfair advantage. And the first thing you want to ask yourself is this: what do you naturally gravitate to? What do you enjoy doing? What do you lose time when you're doing? That thing which you, if you have some free time, you're found there doing that thing. Number 2, what would you do for free? There's a lot of things we do for money that we wouldn't do for free. What it is that you would do for free. Number 3, what have people complimented you for doing? Sometimes we don't realize our own gift, but people have told us what we are good at. So what do you naturally gravitate to? What have people complimented you for doing? What would you for free? And 4thly, what did you get into trouble for as a child? Those are things that will lead you to identify your area of unfair advantage. And we went into quite some depth into that, and we gave some examples in chapter 3. Now, chapter 4 is chapter 4 is take action. Take action. Sometimes we fall victim of analysis paralysis. We analyze our ideas, we analyze them right to death. Chapter 4 encourages you to be action oriented. You would rather be active doing the wrong thing than not doing anything at all. Find something that you can do, even if you can do it as a volunteer. I had at one point about a gentleman who finished school and he started offering his services. He went to companies and told them, what can I do for you? I can run the errands, I can wash the cars, I can clean the office. And just because of his attitude, he wound up finding a job. They made him a graduate trainee. He wound up in a professional job where he started really at the very bottom. He was willing to offer his services. A lot of times we are not willing, we don't end up getting opportunities and chances because we are waiting to get paid for what we love to do. Don't wait until someone is paying you, just stay in action. Because when you're in action, we already say the benefits of playing in your area of unfair advantage. You already enjoy doing this thing. But when you're in action is when you expose your talent. That's when you expose your gift. That's when you get better at your gift. Because even I talked about athletics, I am a Kenyan. Even if I was born into a very talented family and I can run, but I don't do any practice. I'm just from this very gifted family. Actually, whenever you introduce yourself as a Kenyan, when there's no other Kenyan in the compound, in the room, people will usually ask you, do you run? And I laugh and tell them, guys, it's one community in our country. In fact, it's people from one county, largely, who run and who have this gift. Now, even if I came from that community, but I never once practiced, do you think I'd go to the Olympic tryouts and win? No. You have to practice. So stay in action. All right. Number 5 was pay the price. Now, anything that's going to come to you is going to come to you at a cost, and it's hardly ever going to be in cash. You will have to pay the price in the way of the habits you have to create, the habits you have to lose, the places you possibly have to move, the new lifestyle you have to adopt, because you're never going to achieve your goal being the same person. You have to change into an absolutely different person to be able to achieve your goal. So we talked about pay the price, and we gave many different areas. Now, chapter 6 was about getting around winners, the importance of the company that you keep, how important it is to lose people who are negative energy, people who are discouragers, people who know everything wrong with your plan, and alternatively get into the company of people who are mentors for you, people who will hold your hand, people who will teach you. And we gave ways in which you can identify such people and get into their company and win their trust. All right. And just to summarize, what we said about that was, don't come to the table with what can I get. Come to the table with what can I give. Offer a service. Learn. If I know of a particular person who left a very busy business, and he went to work for the guy that he admired, and he soon became the vice president of sales in that company, and he learned so much from them, so that when he went back into that line of work that he wanted to be in, he ended up opening a company that went global, that has made millions upon millions, because he was able to learn at the feet of his mentor. And how did he do that? By offering to work for them. So get in the company of people who will grow you, who will teach you. Chapter 7, win the war, not just the prize. We were talking about being long-term in your planning, even if you have to lose some battles, but win the war. Look at life like a marathon rather than a dash. Make long-term plans and do those things that will lead you to the next level. Chapter 8, we talked about winning at home, making your family your priority. In as much as we are encouraging you, we are pushing you to do well career-wise, to do well financially, that should not become what overrides your family, because our relationships are the most important thing we have. And so we gave some hints and some tips towards getting along better with our families. And now, yesterday, we were talking about develop winners. Hold out your hand and grow another person. You only make money commensurate to how many people's lives that you enrich. I'm going to say that again. You grow wealth commensurate to the number of people whose lives you enrich. So you want to make sure that you are growing the lives of other people. You want to make sure that you're holding out your hand to hold the hand of someone younger, maybe younger in years or younger in business, or somebody new at your place of work. When you're growing other people, you end up doing well yourself. So be a teacher, develop winners. And we talked about find out who it is that you can offer your help, who is it you can mentor, because we have already said find mentors who will hold you, and life is a mirror. If you're going to be looking for people to mentor you, you want to be mentoring someone yourself. Now that brings us to chapter 10, which is what we are discussing today, and the title of the chapter is Just Do It. Now, whether we are in business or we are in a job, there's a lot of times when we wait for the lights to line up green. We're looking for perfection. And the first secret of success is this: perfection doesn't exist. We spend a lot of our lives, a lot of our time getting ready to get ready. And what we are saying to you in this chapter is this: just do it. Stop waiting for everything to work out right. If you know the first step, you know enough. In fact, if you don't even know the first step, but you know who to ask for the first step, you know enough. I opened this chapter with a quote. Now, like I've been doing from the beginning, I'm not necessarily going word for word what the book is talking about. You have the book. I've offered you the book. You can read the book. I'm just giving overall thoughts. And I wrote this book 5 years ago. So I'm giving any new knowledge I might have learned since then. All right. Now, there's There's a verse in the Bible that says faith without action is dead. For me to tell you, I believe this thing, I believe this thing, this is how you know what I believe. If you look at my action, by their action you shall know them. All right? I could tell you all sorts of things about how I love you and everything, but you never heard from me. That possibly suggests it's just empty rhetoric. All right? Now, I'm encouraging you to just do it. There's a story that I like in the Bible. The children of Israel were migrating from one country to another, and they had been in the wilderness for literally years, 40 years, and it became time for them to cross into the promised land. Except they needed to cross a flooded river. And the Bible says, wake up tomorrow morning, pack up all your things. And they were like campers, so I'm sure they had a lot on their back, on their camels and everything, because this was in the desert. And they were told, go into the flooded river. Now, as soon as their feet touched the waters opened. Isn't that interesting? The waters did not open until their feet touched the water. That is very interesting. Usually that is how life tends to work out. You will never know the way till you set off on the journey. I'll give you an example. There's a time when I used to come from church with this particular lady, and I used to give her a ride almost every other week when you're coming from church, because we live in the same direction. And she starts to talk to me and tell me, I'm tempted to buy a car. I'd like to buy a car, but I'm not very sure I can sustain, having fuel for it every day. And I remember asking her, can you afford a car? She said, yeah, I can get financing from my place of work, and yes, I can buy a car. But I'm not very sure about the fuel. So her concern was the fuel. And I remember asking her, why would God give you money for fuel when you don't have a car? Get the car. That's the first step. Then you'll find the fuel. Do you see the logic of that? There's a way in which life works when you plunge in. You just plunge in. Now, this is especially difficult to understand for people who have had a salary, and especially those who have had it for a very long time. They tend to have faith in that on the date that their salary comes. You make all your plans, you do everything targeting that date. On the 24th, on the 25th, I remember when I was employed, my salary used to come on the 24th. And so everything was targeted towards the 24th. On the 24th, I'll be able to pay for this on the 24th. And then when I left the job, I did not have a 24th. I had to go into things on the faith that my business will pay it. Now, I'm not belittling people who have a job, but there's just a way in which you learn to, and I'm only using money as an example. You have to learn to be able to tolerate an element of risk, because if you wait for all the lights to line up green, if you wait for to figure it all out, I will do A and then I'll do B and then I'll do C, and then you want it all figured out all the way to Z before you start, let me tell you this, you will never get started. Just do it. Just if you know the A, jump in so that you'll figure out B as you go along. I like the analogy that was given at one point on the movie The Secret. There's a teacher there called Jack Canfield, and he said you can drive across America, and he showed your headlights will usually see about 200 meters, 100 meters. I'm not sure what length, maybe 100 yards. I'm not very sure how far the headlights of your car will show. But if you, for example, let me use a Kenyan example. If I was driving from Nairobi to Mombasa, and I wanted my headlights to show the whole road. Can you see the folly of that? I have to believe that after I've driven this 100 yards, there's another 100 yards that will appear, and then another, and then I'll keep driving until I get to Mombasa. Make sense? If you know the beginning, you know enough. I must have said that enough times by now. Actually in the book I talked about the analogy of the lion. In the jungle, the lion wakes up knowing he must run faster than the slowest deer, otherwise he's dead. In the same jungle, the deer wakes up knowing he must run faster than the fastest lion, otherwise he's dead. So life is a bit like that. just make a dash for it. Just, whether you're the target or you're the one targeting, you just want to make a dash for it, because it's in your action, it's in your plunging in that you end up succeeding. You will only ever succeed if you are if you are in action, because very many times, I can't emphasize this enough, we analyze a story all the way to death. We have a good idea, but we don't implement it because we don't know what will happen. There's another story that I'm remembering just now about a guy who was he was walking on a rope. You know these guys who walk a high rope? He was walking on a rope across the Niagara Falls. And someone shouted from the audience, "Oh, I love it. I have complete faith in you. In fact, I'm sure that you can wheel a wheelbarrow across the falls." And the stuntman said, "Okay, I'll do that, but I want you to step into the wheelbarrow." Of course, he scampered away. That tells you that he didn't have the faith. If he had had faith, there's a big difference between believing something and having faith in it. Having faith in something is when you put an action behind it. It's when you act against that faith. All right. So you want to be sure that let me give you a money example. Let me give you another example, a practical example. I remember when we were growing up, one of he's my only younger brother. My younger brother went to school abroad, and he was going to be sent support from Kenya. It wasn't one of those countries where you can get a job in that country. And I remember before he left, a young man who had been in that country was talking to my dad and was telling him to make sure he's sending his money on time. There is no opportunity for getting a job in that country. You have to send him the money on time. My father got that. So every month on the 7th, I remember he used to make the transfer. And that was before all these mobile bankings and everything. He had to physically go to the bank and make the transfer every month on the 7th, so that my brother would not starve on the other side. Now, my brother was there for undergraduate, postgraduate, so he ended up in that country for 7 years. When he was due to come back, I remember my dad saying, "Oh, I'll be having so much money for some reason, because I'm no longer sending this amount of money every 7th, so I'll be really liquid." About 6 months after my brother had come back, I remember asking him, "Do you have all this excess money now that you're not sending money to this country?" And he said, "For some reason, no. It seems to be strange." It's amazing how money works. Like in the story I was telling you about the lady who wanted to buy a car. If you do have the car, you'll find money for fuel for it. But if you don't have the car, you're not going to have the money. You're not going to have the money. That's just the way life pans out. So I'm proposing that you jump in, because you're going to find the resources, you're going to find the knowledge. And remember what we said in chapter 2, that you expose your talent, your gift, once you're already practicing it. So get into action, because the opportunities will never reach you before you do. Nobody knows that you're good at something. Say, for example, you work in an office and maybe you're employed to do, what example can I give? Possibly you actually sit at reception. Maybe you sit at reception, all right? But you have all these ideas concerning marketing. You are actually this outgoing person who interacts very well with people. How is anybody ever going to know about your gifting, about your talent, about your knowledge base, unless you tell them about it, unless you volunteer to do things around your area of gift? When you do that, usually you expose your gift, and you want to expose your gift. You want to make sure that people can find you. You want to make sure that you what you want to do is to actually show off what you're good at. If what you're good at is playing an instrument, volunteer to play the instrument. Volunteer to sing in public. Volunteer to speak in public. Just do it. Now, when I say volunteer to speak, I'm reminded of the number of people who've sat me down and told me, "Oh, I would like to be a speaker. How do I become a speaker?" And I have a standard answer for all of them. You learn to speak the same way you learn to ride a bike. Get on the bike. Get on the bike. I'm sure I told this story. It's very inspirational to me, about a lady who told us that she wanted to learn how to swim, and she was 45. I was very impressed at her 40, because usually the older we become, the less we want to take risks. So she was 45 when she decided she wanted to learn how to swim. And she makes an appointment with a trainer, and she gets to the swimming pool, changes into her swimming costume, and then walks towards the trainer and says, "Okay, I'm here." And the guy said, "Okay, good, jump in." And she said, "I don't know how to swim." And the trainer said, "That's what we are doing here. Jump in." And she said, "But I don't know how to swim." When that exchange had happened twice or three times, she listened to herself, and she discovered you will never learn to swim when you're still dry. You have to get in the water. So the instructor is help, and actually, a swimming instructor does not get into the water. But if you do what they are doing, what they're telling you to do, you end up learning how to swim. But you will never learn to swim sitting on the side of the pool. You have to get in. You have to have the faith to at least take that step, get in the water. That is when you end up learning how to swim. Now, here are a few pointers to summarize. And the first one is this: develop a let's do it attitude. Develop a let's do it attitude. Whenever you're in a situation, volunteer to help. Whenever you want to do something, don't focus too much. While you want to be cautious and you want to learn about what you're plunging into, don't focus on what is missing. Focus on what you have, because it's never all perfect. You will learn it as you go along. Now, be completely yourself. Remember, we are talking about your area of gifting. The fastest way to kill your gift is to imitate another person. Be completely yourself. Even if you have seen someone else, say for example, you're a musician and your passion is in a particular genre of music, don't copy what seems to be selling at that time. Don't copy what someone else seems to have made a profit doing. They are not you. You don't have their gifting and their circumstances. Follow your own heart. Follow your own heart. Don't compare yourself with anybody. And then number 3, know exactly what you want. Have your plan written down. The way our brain works is when you write something down, you're now thinking about it, but you're now also seeing it. And we understand things based on the number of senses we perceive it by. If I hear something, if I see something, if I am writing down, that's me actually acting. It crystallizes that much more in my mind. All right. Learn persuasive communication. That is something that everybody will learn, because how are people going to give you a chance to practice your trade? How are people going to adopt you so that they can mentor you? How are people going to give you any opportunity you're looking for? You want to learn the art of persuasive communication. Be realistic about your expectations. Now, we live in a generation that is very microwave driven. We want our results yesterday morning. We want to open a business today and make a profit today. Think long term. We already had a chapter on thinking long term. So set realistic expectations. Break out of your comfort zone. Break out of, if I could give you one point, one clue. And I like actually the way Steve Harvey put it. Steve Harvey said, jump. And all the people we admire in the world, all the people we watch on Cribs, on, all the millionaires who've made it, all the people you're admiring, your mentors, your idols, they had to jump. And what does jumping mean? It means plunging into the unknown. You will never find new lands unless you allow yourself to lose sight of shore. We already said you have to become another person completely. Lose what is familiar in order for you to find the new reality. All right? So you want to break out of your comfort zone. Be a passionate and a lifelong learner. You never arrive. You keep on learning. I listened to Oprah in an interview recently, and she was being asked, you're over 60, you've lived more than half of your life. How is it you're busier now than you were even when you were a younger person? And she said, because life is a journey. Because I'm moving to a better version of myself, and the better version of myself is who I'll be tomorrow. So you can't get in a comfort zone regardless of what you are, what you achieve. You want to be a lifelong learner of your trade. And now be determined and be persistent. Success hardly ever happens in the beginning of any undertaking. Success will usually come after a few trials. So don't be discouraged. Pick up, dust off, and keep going. I hope this book has been helpful to you. I'm actually now reading. Please get in touch and let me know. I would really appreciate if you sent me an inbox. I appreciate that people who've been getting in touch with me and letting me know that they've been following this series. This has been beautiful. Like I said already, I am doing this because I am in the middle of doing another book. And so I thought, why don't I offer my last book? So this is the last book that I published. I am in the middle of doing another one. I would really appreciate if you send me an inbox and tell me what this has been like for you. All right. Now, on points to ponder, like I said, at the end of every chapter in this book, there is the points to ponder, which is the section that allows you some space to write down your thoughts concerning what you have learned in that chapter. And in chapter 10, the points to ponder is really about the lessons across the whole book. And it says, I am sure this book has made an impression in a particular area in your life. Put that down here. Write down in what area this book has spoken to you. Because remember, I said the importance of taking notes is you get to, it goes that much closer into your brain, it goes into your subconscious mind because you are actively writing it down. What immediate action will you take to achieve your goal in this area? Remember, you have in number 1 written down what area this book has struck you, what light bulbs have gone off in your head. Now write down what you're going to do immediately, because I promise you that if you don't do it, you will forget. You possibly, in this session, you've been listening to me now possibly for the last 31 minutes. You've already forgotten what I said in the first 10 minutes. That's just humanity. Write down your plans and then go ahead to play to win. In summary, identify what you're good at and play in that area. I will talk to you again soon. This has been my great pleasure. I propose that you download the book. I propose that you share it around and let other people appreciate the book. My name is Christine Mweteeli signing off. I will be in touch with you. Bye-bye.